Hello, Joana Colucci here with your 5-minute Farm Doc Daily about the factors that should push Brazil into first place in corn exports this year, surpassing the United States for the second time. Brazil has exported more corn than the US only once before, in the drought year of 2012. You may remember that. So let's understand these factors better. The USDA forecasts that Brazil will export 50 million tons of corn this market year. That would put Brazil above the United States, which is expected to ship 47 million tons to foreign buyers. Brazilian exports have risen sevenfold in 15 years, jumping from 7 million tons in 2009 to 50 million tons in 2023. The recent opening to the Chinese market could mean that Brazil will keep competing with the United States for top corn exporter more often in the coming years. Brazil and China signed an agreement on phytosanitary requirements for corn trade last year, and the first shipment of Brazilian corn to China occurred in November 2022. In January and February 2023, China became the primary destination of Brazilian corn exports by volume, surpassing traditional importers such as Japan, Iran, and Spain. By contrast, U.S. corn exports have been off to a slow start. Production in last season was smaller than initially forecasts. In addition, the Mississippi River conditions in the months after harvest kept U.S. prices relatively uncompetitive. Since mid-January, U.S. price competitiveness has improved, but export sales have been slow to respond. According to data from the USDA, the export inspections for January and February combined are about half of the average shipped during the same period in the last 2 years. The continued expansion of corn as a second crop is another factor that should push Brazil to continue to compete with the US in the corn exported market. In the last 20 years, corn acreage in Brazil has risen 72%, from 32 million acres in 2003 to 54 million acres in 2022. In the same period, the planted area in the US rose 12%, from 71 million acres to 79 million acres. Brazil's corn production has grown over the past 2 decades because of the increased production of safrinha, or little harvest in Portuguese. Safrinha corn is planted as a second crop right after the soybean harvest in February and March. It's usually harvested between June and August. Currently, the safrinha crop accounts for about 77% of total corn production in Brazil. Projections indicate total corn production in Brazil for this crop year will be a record 4.9 billion bushels, an increase of 10% over last year. The total includes the first, second, and third crops. Brazilian total corn acreage is expected to grow 4% to 55 million acres this season. High prices and profits last season, coupled with the depreciation of the Brazilian currency, have motivated farms to increase their planted acreage. In addition, Brazil is expanding its ethanol production by corn. If corn acreage growth has been an advantage that Brazil has had over the United States, the same cannot be said for average yields. The average this season in Brazil is expected to be 90 bushels per acre, almost half the average of the US, which was 173 bushels per acre last season. The average yield of Brazilian corn has grown 58% in the last 15 years, but continues to lag far behind the corn yield in the United States. Although the second crop corn has become Brazil's primary crop and an increasing share of global corn production, its yields are more variable than Brazil's first crop because of the timing of the onset on the dry season. If USDA estimates are confirmed, Brazil will surpass the United States as the world's largest corn exporter this market year. And if Brazil emerges as the #1 export nation, its front-runner status may not be temporary. But, of course, there are other factors at play. You can read more about this topic in an article written by me, Gary Chinitsky, and Nick Paulson. A link is in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and if you like more videos like this, make sure to subscribe for more. See ya next time!